Hey, it's Dave from KS Guitars. So, we got the new camera. I think it's working right. And we need to redo the video that we did for all the measurements and everything right out of the box. Now, I did this video the first time, but because of trademark issues, we're going to have to redo it. But we haven't done anything to the guitar since that video, which is good. We haven't made any changes. This is still literally right out of the box. So I'll show you some of the tools that we'll be using. And I know there's a lot of stuff here. I'm going to go through everything, show you what it is. But realistically, you don't need the majority of this to do what we're going to do. I just like to be able to show you the different kind of things and, you know, what I use. And I'll show you basically you can do all the things that we're going to do with two basic tools. So we're going to measure a couple things. We're going to measure the action, right? We're going to kind of measure pickup height because I have my own theory about that. We're going to see where the neck is, where it sits, what kind of, do we have a bow in the neck? Is it flat? We're going to see where all that is. We're going to see what the nut looks like. We're going to see what kind of measurements we have at the first fret, and we're going to measure our action. Those are kind of the major things. That's going to tell us the geometry of the neck. That's going to tell us where everything sits and how playable this is as far as math goes. I mean, you'll know how playable it is when you pick it up and play it. But I look at things in numbers because when I do my setups, it's all based in math. It's all based in geometry of the neck and of what this guitar was meant to do. So we're going to get some of those numbers, and I'm going to base those numbers off the numbers that I have been using forever with my Workhorse setups. That's why we're calling this the Workhorse guitar. So let's go over the tools we're going to use first. There's a lot of stuff here used for a lot of different things. But the simplest thing here is if you go online and look for a setup gauge, you're going to get something like this, right? I guess I should probably put my glasses on so I can tell you if it's upside down or not. You're going to get something like this. And I went and I did some research to get some prices for you. You can get one of these for about 12 bucks, right? Here's mine. This is what I use more often than not. And it's basically the same thing, except it has a lot more information on it and it's more precise. This one is from Music Nomad. I love Music Nomad. They make great luthier tools. They make a lot of really great things. They don't give me anything. They don't pay me anything. Nobody gives me anything, unfortunately. But I do use a lot of their stuff because I can afford their stuff. It's a little bit more affordable than StewMac and some of the other high-end stuff. And it's all high-end stuff. So their kit comes with your setup gauge, and it comes with a gauge that I'm going to show you, which is kind of cool because it allows you to measure the amount of bend your neck has, and I'll show you how to do all that. But realistically, everything we're going to do, you can do with one of these $12 setup gauges and one of these. This is what was important to me in the very beginning. So this is an automotive feeler gauge set, right? And they're usually, I think, 32 gauges in a set. And here's the important one right here. There's a brass gauge, and it's 10/1000ths of an inch usually. And the reason it's brass is because most of you probably aren't going to know unless you're my age. Back in the day, the standard for automotive stuff, when you set points in a distributor and things like that, the air gap standard was pretty much 10/1000ths of an inch. That's what this brass gauge is. It was a brass gauge because you're dealing with magnetic parts and you didn't want something that was magnetic. This is the one that's important out of all this. I mean, it's great because you get all the other feeler gauges, which will give you different, you know, for different measurements. But this is the one that's important because that's going to give us our first fret. And I'll show you and tell you how I do it. And you'll get different measurements if you look online, but this has never failed me. So if you have these two tools right here, those two will get you everything you need to get done today. And a capo. You're going to need a capo. I also have neck radius gauges. These are also Music Nomad gauges, and these are great gauges. The only problem I have with these is if I'm using them on here, Obviously, they're kind of not so accurate because there's strings on the guitar. So what I did is I printed out a set, I 3D printed a set that I can use when the strings are on the guitar. And I did a set for bottom of the neck, top of the neck. So if I have a compound neck with, you know, different gauge top and bottom, different radius top and bottom, I can figure that out with those. I'm sure you can buy these. I 3D printed them. I'm sure they're available to buy. I didn't research that, but you don't really need it for this. This is a nice to know thing. It's not going to matter on this. If I'm looking at this and I'm thinking it's probably a 12-inch radius neck, that's pretty standard. We don't care too much about that. It's just something nice to know. Your neck levels, right? These are great, and they make life so easy. You can do the same. We're gonna find out the same thing with this small gauge from Music Nomad, except these are quicker and easier, but they're a lot more expensive. They're about 26, 27 bucks a piece. And of course, it's not a one-fits-all type of thing because, you know, guitars have different scales. Everybody does, not everybody, but a lot of them do different things, so you need different gauges. And then, of course, a caliper. I use this, if I'm being honest, I use a caliper more for measuring parts, for dimensions when I need to measure a nut, if I need to make a new nut or buy a new nut, and I want to make sure I get a blank or a new nut that's the right size. I'll use it for that more than I'll use it for any measurements that I'm doing during a setup, only because I have all the other tools to do that make it easier. So that's pretty much what we're looking at for what we're going to measure today. So let's get to measuring. Let's get some numbers, and I'll tell you where this is, how close it would be if I was going to set it up, and I'll give you the numbers that I use when I set it up. So let's do that. Okay, so we're ready to start taking some measurements. I'll go through and do what I do, and as we go, I'll use my tools that I normally use, but I'll switch back and forth between the two that I told you you'd be able to do it with. In case you don't have any of these tools, for about 20 bucks, you can pick up these two tools. This, like I said, this one was about 12 bucks on eBay. You can get, I think, two of these for 10 bucks. Just make sure these are automotive gauges. So make sure when you buy the set of automotive gauges, they do have the brass gauge. You're still going to get a 10,000th gauge, but it's nice to have the brass one because as you use them, you'll see they get fingerprinted up and marked up. With the brass one, I like it because you always know you have the right gauge. It's just quick and it's easy. And when for me in the shop, when I'm going guitar to guitar to guitar, I know that's the one I always want. So we want to know where the strings sit at the first fret because we want to make sure the nut's right, that the strings aren't sitting too high. We want to know where the action is. So if you've read my stuff online and you've looked at all the information we give and what we teach, you know one thing affects another, affects another, affects another. So how do we start this measurement process? Well, we can start the measurement at the first fret and see where we're at. The only problem with that is depending on where the neck sits, depending on how much bow is in the neck, how much relief is in the neck, how flat the neck is, that's going to change this. That's also going to change your action. So it kind of makes sense to look at the neck first and see where the neck is. And doing a setup, we look at that first with the strings in tune, under tension, so we know what we need to do to get everything else right. So let's look at that first. And the easiest, quickest way to do that is this right here. And it's simple. You just set it over the frets. And then if you look straight down on it, and I can't see it, but I'll take a look at it then. Normally you'll see a little bit of a gap right in here. It should not lay on the fretboard all the way down, and you should not have a gap here and down at the bottom of the neck. You should have a little bit of a gap in the middle because you should have some relief in that neck. So let me stand her up and get a look at it with the light behind it so I can see where we're at. And that neck looks pretty flat to me. So there doesn't look to be any relief in that neck from what I can see. So that's how we would do it with that. Quick, simple, easy. I know right away the first thing I have to do is make a truss rod adjustment to get some relief in this neck. So right out of the box, this neck is pretty much dead flat. Not a horrible thing. I used to run all my guitar necks dead flat. You can do it if they're set up right. I don't recommend it so much anymore because they're just easier to play. They feel better if you have a little bit of relief in them, and it's easier on the guitar. Guitars are built to have a little bit of relief in the neck. Now, I told you that you could do it with this gauge, right? And if you look at this gauge, this is why I like Music Nomad, because number one, they give you the directions on how to use it right here. Then they give you, what you need to do if it's a light touch or if it's medium to high, and which way to turn your truss rod. It's really kind of cool. It's all right here in the tool. Now, I'll give you briefly how we do it. So we find the gauge for electric guitar, right? And it's 0.006 of an inch. So what we do is we put the capo on the first fret. And then we're going to come in on the 12th fret and press down on the 12th fret. Then we come in, where are we? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, on the 6th fret. And we just use this feeler gauge to feel. And it's a little bit tight, a little bit tighter than I would like. So that's going to be probably perfect when I put a little bit of relief in this neck. It still would be playable, but my guess is going to be, and I haven't even played this yet. I haven't plugged it in, haven't played it. My guess is going to be, if I were to play it, to me it's going to feel what I call rattly. When you have a flat neck and your strings are parallel to the neck and you have low action on a flat neck, guitars tend to feel rattly. The strings feel rattly, and as soon as you put a little bit of relief in that neck, everything smooths out. So that's how you would do it with this gauge. But it's basically telling you the same thing that this told you, because you have hardly any gap between that 6th fret, that neck is straight or could be bowed back. The nice thing with these is it'll tell you exactly where your guitar is. But either way, you know what you need to do, the adjustments you need to make. So the next thing I would look at is I would make my adjustments, and then the next thing I would look at is I would look at my 1st fret. Now, we're not going to make the adjustments because we're just taking the measurements because we want to know where it is right out of the box. So to take your measurement at your 1st fret is super easy, and that's what I use this gauge for. All you do with the string open is you slide this between the 1st fret and the string. And it should slide between the two easily. You're going to feel probably a little bit of scrape, but it should go between, it should pass through easily. And you shouldn't have a big gap there. That's perfect. Now, some guys will tell you, well, you have to have X amount here, X amount there. I think 18 thousandths to 22 thousandths on your wound strings, and about 10 to 15 thousandths on your unwound, your steel strings, your non-wound strings. But realistically, if you're getting that perfect, then you're probably making the nut. If you can pass this through on your top strings and the strings follow the radius of the neck, you're good. Everything's going to be fine. So that's the easiest way to do that. Next thing we want to look at is the action. That's the important one for most guys because everybody wants low action. So to do that, first thing we do is we put the capo back on the 1st fret. Then we come in and we can use our $12 gauge. I always use my little bit of a better gauge. But my for my guitars, for what I do, for my workhorse setups, is I do 60-40. 60 thousandths on your low E string, 40 thousandths on your high E string. Now, depending on what bridge you have, that's not always possible. There's some bridges where it kind of has to be the same, but most of the time, if you get 60 thousandths at your 12th fret, and this is super low because that neck is super flat. So I can't even tell you where we're at because I'll have to stand it up and look in the light, but we're way low. Now our high E string is good. We're right at about 40 thousandths. But I'm going to guess our E, our low E, is probably 40 thousandths as well, which is too low. Yeah, actually 30 thousandths. So it's in a way kind of nice because we have incredibly low action and no fret buzz with a perfectly flat neck. Once we put a little bit relief into this, get a little bit of rake on the strings by getting our action where it needs to be, this is going to be really nice. So that's where we're at, straight out of the box. Oh, let's do, since we have them here, let's do our neck radius. I said I thought it was going to be a 12. It looks like a 12-inch. Where's my 12-inch radius there? And I'm guessing, yeah, that's a 12-inch radius neck, which is pretty flat, pretty standard. So this isn't bad right out of the box. Now I tuned it up. That's the only thing I've done to this guitar since it came out of the box was tune it up. And I had to tune it. You can hear some rattle. A little out of tune, and there's some rattle, which is to be expected, again, because there's no relief in the neck and the action's way too low. But it would be very playable out of the box. But there's that rattly. I told you when it's a flat neck and your strings are running parallel with the neck, it feels to me rattly. It sounds to me rattly, and that's exactly what that is. So with a proper setup, this thing would be ready to rip for the most part. So there's all your measurements, at least what's important with your measurements. We can get into a lot of other little details, and we will when we decide what parts we're putting on it and we get it set up correctly. There's things like I can tell you right now, your strings shouldn't hit the back of your bridge on a tunematic bridge, and I can tell you this one probably does because it looks like a pretty steep angle. Actually, maybe it doesn't. I'd be surprised. Yeah, the high E's hitting, but your wound strings aren't, which is kind of surprising. So, but they might once we bring that action up. But all in all, not too shabby, considering we literally just pulled it out of the box. Would it be playable out of the box? I would say yeah. It wouldn't be comfortable. It wouldn't be something that I would be like, yeah, let's play for an hour and put it down and be like, yeah, I can't wait to play it again. I kind of probably would be like, yeah, whatever, and I'd set it aside and be done with it. But with a setup, it would very much be playable and probably a very fun guitar. So I guess the next thing is, we could either set it up as is to let you see what you would get if you just bought one of these and set it up, or we can get to the fun stuff and decide what parts we're going to put on it and start tearing it down. But before we do either of those, I guess what we'll do with the next video is I'll clean all this up and we'll plug it in. That's what we're going to do next. So hang in there and we'll get to it next. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for following this project. It's going to be fun. Okay, so I told you in the beginning of the video that I was going to show you pickup height as well, and we were going to measure pickup height as well. And I said that I had my own theories on that. And I kind of skipped over all that, and I thought about it after the video was done, and I was doing some editing on it, and I thought, I should probably go back and explain that a little bit. I used to give a measurement for that, and to me it was always a starting point. And then it was not all that long ago where it really hit home to me, because I had a guitar I was working on was having some problems, and the second I made the adjustment on the pickup height, everything changed. And I don't know why it was so prominent with this one guitar. But ever since then, and maybe it wasn't prominent with this one guitar, maybe it's just that I noticed it more and I kind of honed in on it since then. But ever since then, I kind of threw the pickup height measurement out the window a bit. I don't like giving an actual number now. Like, I think it was like 1/16 of an inch or something. And it's a starting point. So, look, you can go online and look it up, and they're going to give you, well, you should be here at your bass end, and here at your treble end, and if it's a single coil, this, if it's a humbucker, this, if it's a neck pickup, this, if it's a middle pickup, this. Realistically, every guitar is different, every scale is different, every action is different. The action that you have right now may be a little bit different when the next time you get it set up. So, it's kind of tough to give you a number and say this is what it should be at, because I don't think it's that at all. Because I will tell you the one big thing that I've noticed more and more lately is it also depends on the pickup. It also depends on the style of music you're playing, and it also depends on you and what you want. Because I have now become a person that really pushes pickup height and the adjustment of your pickups. And I wasn't so much that guy before. I was kind of the same thing I was with my guitars. Volume all the way up, tone all the way up. I don't even need tone. I just need a volume and one humbucker and I'm good to go. And I'm kind of still that way. But I kind of realized with the pickup height and that one guitar that made such a dramatic difference. And I thought, oh my God, this is a whole nother side of this. This gives you a whole nother tone. It gives you a whole nother tone knob. And that's kind of why I put out the more recent pickup height guide, because it was dramatic to me. I mean, it was really, and I'm not saying you're going to go to your guitar and adjust your pickups and be like, oh my God, he's right. You're probably not. You're probably going to be like, this dude's crazy. But to me, it really did make a big difference. For all you guys out there that are searching for the perfect tone, this whole thing drives me nuts, because you're spending thousands of dollars on gear and you haven't started here. This is where it starts. This little adjustment that you make between your 2 pickups or 3 pickups or 1 pickup, however many pickups you have, makes a difference and makes a big difference. So I would say pick a starting point, because at some point you're going to get them too close to the strings and you're going to notice you're going to lose your sustain. It's going to start to sound kind of, I don't want to say garbagey, but it's going to start to just not sound right. And then you're going to back it off a little bit and everything's going to seem right with the world. You're going to hit that sweet spot. Or you're going to have them too low and they're just going to feel like this perfect thing. I picked up another guitar the other day because, I need another guitar. And I was down here playing it, and I didn't set it up or anything yet. It was the first time playing it, and it was a used guitar. And my Rose, my wife, came down, and she's like, that guitar sounds like it's struggling. And I thought to myself, that's the perfect way to describe it. There was something just off with this guitar, and I couldn't put my finger on it. And I knew the way she described it was the way I felt. Because I was playing it, and the feeling I had that translated from me playing to what I was hearing, I couldn't put words to it. And when she said, the guitar sounds like it's struggling, I was like, that's it. That's exactly it. I should be getting more out of this guitar. This guitar, I know what's in this guitar. I know what it should sound like, and it just wasn't there. I felt like it was a dog on a leash that I was pulling to keep up. It just wasn't doing it. I kid you not, and this wasn't even the guitar that made such a huge difference to me. All I did was adjust the pickup height, and all of a sudden the thing came alive. It just became the guitar it should be. The pickups came alive, it got real nasty and in a good way, and it became what I was expecting it to be, just from the adjustment of the pickup height. This is why I don't say, this is what it should be, this is what it should be. I mean, you can find a million people online telling you what it should be. I say, pick one of those measurements and start there. You want to look at you want to hold down at your last fret, hold your strings down and look at that pickup height. It shouldn't be super close to your strings, but it shouldn't be real far away from them either. It should be, you know, I mean, maybe 1/16 of an inch. Maybe that's the place to start. You don't want, again, it depends on the pickups. Because if you, like I run hot pickups. I run pickups with strong magnets. So if that pickup is yanking down on those strings, you're losing sustain because it's literally stopping that string from vibrating. So you have to be aware of the pickups that are in it. You have to be aware of the gauge strings you're running. You have to be aware of everything else going on in that guitar and what you're expecting it to do. And then make it do that. Play with it. Drop them down. You'll hear the difference. Bring them up till they almost touch the strings. You'll definitely hear the difference. You're not going to hurt anything by doing that. So play with it until you find where that pickup starts to sing. And if you have a guitar like this, start with your bridge, go to your neck, and do them individually. Don't try to do them together. Do them individually until each pickup sings the way it should, till you hit that sweet spot. And then you're golden. And then when you have something like this that has the dual pickups, then what you want to do is you kind of want to go back and forth between the two and listen to the bridge and listen to the neck, because then you're going to have to make little adjustments to make sure the volume level isn't crazy different between them, because bringing your pickups closer and further away from the strings also affects the volume level. So keep that in mind. But I did want to touch on that because it did make an amazing difference to me, but I didn't want to, I was trying to throw numbers at you for all the other stuff because that was important, and I don't feel that numbers are important for pickup height as much as they are for everything else. I think for pickup height, you really got to listen. You have to feel it and you have to listen to it. That's what's important. So I hope this helps.